All right. How's it going, everybody? Happy MLK Day. Welcome, everybody, to a special bonus edition of the Hoots Podcast, or the podcast is Hoots, as Brother Carter would affectionately say sometimes. Is yours truly, Joshie Lopez. You can follow me on Twitter at Josh Lopez Media. Um, it's I'm sad to say that in 2 weeks' time it'll be 1 year since our Hoots Podcast account got suspended. So Twitter could take on in the ass, as far as I'm concerned. How's it going, everybody? You guys can see down the screen where you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast right now, anywhere you get your podcast from. We are 8 episodes away from reaching 300, March 10th, 2022. Make sure to type it down on a Thursday. Bookmark it in your calendars. It should be a fun show, and I got a big announcement coming up on that show as well, so be on the lookout for that. I am not alone here on this fine broadcast. Usually throughout the years, I like to have these fun kind of side episodes of the Who's Podcast called Catch It Up With, where I reach out to friends of mine, good brothers, acquaintances, media members around the world, and we just talk shop. We can talk about wrestling. We can talk about anything. And that's the charm of this series I do here called Catching Up With. And today I am blessed to have a OG good brother of the Hoots Podcast on the show today for the first time. His name's David, but I call him Ace. You can follow him at Twitter at Big Ace for Life. That's the number 4. So make sure you're all correct there. Ace, co-host of the 2 Count podcast. You guys go check it out. I'm actually going to be on the 2 Count in a week from tomorrow, which would be Tuesday. So January 25th, come check out your boy on the 2 Count. But Ace, man, welcome to the Hoots Podcast. I'm ashamed that this is your first time actually on the show. But I'm glad that I have a good brother here. How you doing today, man?
Dude, I'm good. I'm very glad to be here. Dude, 6 years and almost 300 episodes. It's insane. When I saw that flash on the bottom, I was like, man, I don't think I've done any show wrestling in the wrestling biz like this that made it 6 years yet. You know what I mean? I think 3 years was the longest I went. So that's huge, man. That's awesome. And yeah, like I said, I'm glad to be here, man. We've always talked about doing these things. I'd come here, you come on mine, and it took getting through a pandemic, I guess, and things to change in 2022 finally to get it going. But man, I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, we're making rights for the lifelongs. That's how I look at it, pal.
Yeah, and I'm pumped. Yeah, you're gonna join us on the 2 Count, guys. That's a Twitch show. You can find it on YouTube too, but we go live every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central on Twitch, the 2 Count, and you're joining us for one of our special episodes, and that is going to be a Royal Rumble preview episode. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna be giving our picks and just having fun, talking Royal Rumble moments, all that good stuff.
Yeah, the Royal Rumble in the dump known as St. Louis. The chart here you guys have here, ladies and gentlemen, you got 2 guys based on the Midwest here. Ace is out in Minnesota land. I'm here in Chirac. We got the Rumble down the road at St. Louis a week from Saturday. Don't forget, folks, a Royal Rumble on a Saturday.
Love it.
Year. Let me ask you about that. How you feel about WWE having their pay-per-views on Saturdays now?
Dude, I'm all for Saturday night pay-per-views. When AEW came out and was starting to kind of do that with their big shows in the beginning, it was so cool because you know how it goes. You always have the friends come over, y'all hang out, get food, watch these things together. And like Sunday nights, it was always like, well, we can't have too much fun, guys, because everybody's got to work in the morning, or, it's just a long night too, so to have a Saturday night pay-per-view where you could have like the friends come hang out and you guys can have a good time and you don't have to worry about getting up early the next day.
Yeah.
It's just nice. It's very cool. I'm all about it. That's one thing I really enjoy that they're kind of doing on some of their stuff over there at WWE now. Something I wanted to ask you about, though, as far as their pay-per-views, because Mania, Rumble is the road to Mania. What's your take? And maybe if you said it on here before, but I just want to hear, what was your take on the 2-night Mania? Because for me, that bummed me out. I was actually thinking of going to Dallas till they announced it was going to be 2 nights, and I was like, I'm out.
Right. it's a different experience. I've actually got to experience it in Tampa last year. I went. Probably the biggest risk I ever probably take my probably not a smart decision, but I really wanted to go in. I was hanging out with a couple of friends of mine that I met in passing. A guy named Andrew Baydala, who does some stuff in the S&E network, and I met for a long while. Another guy named Blake Mitchmore as well, so I got meeting him down there. And I was going to check out Tampa. By the way, I don't know what it is with Florida, but the surrounding areas around these stadiums are complete shitholes. This is going to be completely honest, especially the Citrus Bowl for WrestleMania 33 in Orlando. But anyways, I got to experience that for the first two-night WrestleMania. And, previously I've been doing basically all the New Japan Pro Wrestling shows. So I've been doing two-night events. Is not new to me from a transcription point of view, but attending it was a different experience in itself too. Now my situation is a little different. This is the first pandemic ever WrestleMania where you don't have a full capacity show. The first night was a rain delay. That was an experience in itself that I'll never forget. But I think from a transcript point of view, it's a lot more work. To think about it, if I could go back, let's say for New Japan, for example, like this past Wrestle Kingdom, it took me collectively 9 hours to type out both shows. And that's just editing and pausing in that process of making a transcript. Now, going as a fan, I loved it. I really dig that. I'm going to Dallas for both nights this year. It's just a bouncy thing, and I think for WWE more specifically, as we're talking about this, I think this is a better chance for them to have, I wouldn't say better wrestling matches, but better stories come out of it than a 1 8-hour show where everybody's drowned out by the fifth match of the show, And I'm for it. It's a pain in the ass to type out. I'll say that, but it comes with the territory.
Yeah, I'm old school, man. So to me, it's like it should be still held like it's the Super Bowl, one night of the year. It's the stage of stage, that's me. I also really enjoyed how they used to do it with the Hall of Fame. NXT takeover would happen, and all that.
Right.
But to see NXT go to this 2.0 and to kind of see how they're in like a really big creative change, and who knows where that's all going to end up kind of landing. And which could end up being really good. I don't know if it'll ever really get to the peak that NXT got themselves to before this 2.0, because it was at a lot of times NXT was really the best thing out there for a minute. You know what I mean? As far as some of the storylines, you go back when it was Owens and Balor and Sami Zayn and Bayley and Sasha Banks, like Asuka, and Tyler Breeze getting Liger. I mean, like all that kind of stuff. I mean, those were just hot moments for NXT, and I mean, it hasn't really gotten there since, and I don't know if it will now, but I do understand that now that that's all changed, I am a little better with this two-night mania. I will tell you this, sir, as someone who's been at a WrestleMania in Dallas at AT&T Stadium, make sure you go to the right gate. I didn't realize that you couldn't just go in any gate at that stadium, because they really do section you off, like depending where you're sitting. Like you don't get free reign of that entire level that you're sitting on, like you do at majority of stadiums. Jerry's World's definitely Jerry's World, and you got to pay to be in certain parts of that world. We ended up going in. We were going in like end zone side, like those big archways you see during the games, and they got those side outdoors. We were in line to go in there. We waited for about an hour and a half, 2 hours before me and my nephew, who was with me, realized that our tickets, because the people we were with were on the floor, but ours weren't, that we had a special door we had to go into, and it was like halfway around that stadium, which, it's a football field. That's not, no, that stadium is massive. 100,000 people, guys. You got to think of that.
It's like a pilot ship. Yeah.
Right. And at this point, like, it's like, are we going to even make it to our seats to catch the beginning of the show? Because now we just wasted so much time. And if there's a line over there to get in, it's like, oh my God. Luckily, we got there running, which I don't run. So you could imagine that sight. And then when we got to the gate, it turned out we had like these club level seats. So where we sat, it was like a section of 4 sections. And we were in like kind of a private area though. Like our concourse was private. It was like super fancy, like sushi and like barbecue and all that. But like once we got to the gate, we were in. So, and we got to, I sat down right as they were doing the opening to go live on the pay-per-view.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But you're going to have a blast, dude. That's a cool stadium. I love that stadium for more reasons than just Mania. That was a big deal. 32 going there for me, man. You know, I'm a diehard Cowboys fan, which means I'm still getting over what happened yesterday. I just don't know how you don't take 2 chances in the air when you have some of the best wide receivers in the league and you do this stupid run play that's not going to leave you any time. I will never understand it. Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore need to go. I know you're a Bears guy, so I know you know what hard times feels like. Yeah. This was and I'm a Cowboys guy. I'm used to a losing season or just us crapping out. I'm used to a first round knockout because that's our trend. This year felt different. Now the last like month didn't. I was like, we're doomed. We're not going to win. And I wish we got blown out. In that first quarter yesterday, I was like, well, at least we're going to get blown out. And then just the teasing of the entire game to end it the way they ended. It's the first time in my entire life that I actually went on social media and literally just tweeted, fuck you, Dallas Cowboys, and tagged them in it. Because I was like, you need to see this. I am mad. Why did you do that? Like,
damn you assholes.
And I'm sorry, I don't know if you swear on here or not, but I dropped it.
Oh, come on, bro.
I gotta ask.
Filter, go ahead.
I gotta ask. But yeah, so that yeah, I'm still not over that one. I honestly, I've been staying off social media all day today because the one time I went on it, I saw like 5 people just talking shit about the Cowboys, and I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. I'll watch the Super Bowl, but until that, I'm basically done watching football for the next few weeks. But dude, that's a cool stadium, though. You're gonna really like it. It's a cool atmosphere. Yeah, dude. And like you said, I could see the 2-night thing because when I went, it was Reigns Triple H, right? 32 was the main event, and I mean, when that match came out, I mean, everybody was just like, "We're done. We're ready to go." Why? Can this be like a 5-minute match? Like no one was happy that match was happening. Like people were ready to go home. And then to throw on at that time, it was when Reigns was getting forced down our throats as the baby face and it wasn't working. So everybody was just booing him like the whole time.
I say people should go back and watch the match though. Just put it on mute. It's actually some good stuff. Yeah. You know, I'm excited to check it out. Obviously, for the first time to see Dallas and stuff. I'm excited for that. But I bought a package actually. I'm excited to see how that process is. This is my first time buying a package. I was thinking about it because, like, you know, I'm not paying $100 or $200 on Uber rides, and this is my process of planning out the trip, right? And I was like, if I'm gonna go down there, let me find a package. I've earned it. I worked hard. This is my time to escape and have some fun. You know, I don't really get a chance to travel a lot or go on vacation. So I was like, fuck it, let me buy a package. So, you know, they said that with the package you get bus passes and they will bring you to the place. So I hope whoever's like directing that whole thing will tell us like which gate we have to go to, like your event, so we don't get like fucked over or whatever. But I'm excited just for the experience to see what the package is like. I don't know where I'm sitting at, but I got like my confirmation for the hotel and stuff the other day. I was like, fuck yeah, let's go.
Oh yeah, dude. It's gonna be a fun mail day. When you get the tickets in the mail and the nice package, they always send those things out and you get to see all your seats and stuff. That'll be cool. Now, was Tampa your first Mania, or how many Manias you been to?
Oh man, let's see. 22, 31, 33, 34. This would be my 6th.
Okay.
I went to WrestleMania 22. It's the first one I went to in Chicago. by the way, the underrated WrestleMania main event, John Cena and Triple H. I'll mention that. The first one I got to cover was WrestleMania 31.
Okay.
I got to go to that one. That was the Raw's cash-in. I went to 33 as a fan. 34 was another one I got to cover for. That was at the Superdome. That's kind of like the last like big WrestleMania with all the fans like next to each other before all COVID started, and then last year was 37. So this will be number 6.
Dude, that's something that I tell people every time when they talk about it. If you're a wrestling fan and you love going to shows and stuff, like, you owe it to yourself to go to one Mania in your life, at least, just to say you went, you experienced it. To me, one of the best parts. So I know someone else who's a big wrestling guy, does some podcasting and stuff. I won't throw his name out because I don't want him to get hated on, but he's somebody he's one of those ones that's in that boat right now that's just very much not happy with the WWE product, and it's just not doing it for him, so his interest isn't there. But he was like, I'll never go to a Mania, screw that, ugh. And I was like, yeah, but you're a wrestling fan. I go, one of the best things of a Mania week, and again, it's a little different now for COVID, but I think this year when you go, it's going to kind of start getting back to what it used to be, which is a lot going on, because the people you meet is what's so awesome about it. And you get more people at that than you do most other things. So, I mean, they're all over the world. Good brother Adam, that's where we met. We met in Miami at WrestleMania 28, and because of that, we were on a bus with other people that I had met at WrestleMania 26 in Phoenix that were from the UK, and we just kept in touch on Facebook. So in Mania has like, hey, we got a party bus. You want to come? We were like, yeah. Next thing you know, I'm at a wedding with a guy dressed as Punk and a girl dressed as Lado. And it's like, what the shit's going on today? I thought we were just going to see The Rock win, but this is great too. And then you just make those lifelong connections. And I mean, if that would have never happened, I wouldn't even be sitting here right now with you on this show, because that's how you and I ended up meeting, was because of Adam. But I mean, dude, that's what's so cool, is going and meeting the fans and just all of that. Have you done Access before?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty dope.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed those. 32, when I was in Dallas, we went to one of them, and I think we just went to the wrong one because it was super busy. That it kind of sucked. Like, we didn't. I think we waited in line for like 2 hours to meet the Vaudevillains at that time, dude. And then we eventually just got out of the line because then like some dude was literally dressed as Simon Gotch. So when he got up there, they like somehow flagged the WWE cameras to come over, and they spent like a half hour filming this guy meeting the Vaudevillains and him and Simon doing all the things, and we're all just in line like, we've been here 2 hours, move it, like, let's go. But I've also been to some accesses that were just amazing, man, like super fun. You might meet tons of people. Always go to the first night if you can get to Thursday. If you're going, and again, I don't know the schedule because it's been a few years since I've been to Mania, but if they're still running it like 3-4 nights like they used to, that first opening night, no one goes. It's not as busy. Yeah. Meet everybody, dude. That was when we went to 30 New Orleans. My goal when we flying down, I was like, there's like 3 people that I want to meet this week. Piper, because I had not met him at that time, and actually, sadly, I've never gotten to meet Roddy Piper. He's one of the ones that it just never happened. But it was him. It was Paige. And again, this is 30, so this is the weekend that she ends up winning on Raw that night, that year.
Right.
And because of broadcast nerd, my radio background, and that's what I've been trying to do for most of my life. Renee Young, or I can never say her name now, Paquid or whatever.
Good.
Yeah. But I mean, because in my eyes, dude, that girl, first of all, best interview ever. To see someone do an interview with other people, but make it seem just like a literally casual conversation, but you get so much out of it. I mean, she's just
one of a kind.
She is a pro. And that first night, dude, like, I met Paige right away. Super awesome lady. And like was very nice. Like, actually had a conversation. And then like they were doing the live from the SmackDown live from Access that Thursday or something. Yeah. And maybe it was the network they were doing it for. I don't remember, but it was King and Renee doing it. So I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna just camp out here for an hour till they're done, because I want to meet Renee. And then and it worked out. And it was just like, man, it was cool because there wasn't a lot of people, wasn't overpacked, lines forever. Met some dude who waited to meet Paige and Renee Whitney from the UK that was like, oh, I'm really big fans of them too. And it's like, that's what's really cool about those Mania weeks. And then you go to those other shows, man. I mean, I would have never known what Kaiju Big Battle was if it wasn't for going to a Mania week.
Right.
I won. And if you don't know what Kaiju Big Battle is, guys, check it out because it's just something you got to see. It's amazing. It's just so entertaining.
By the way, big shout out to the big brother Adam. I hope he's doing good out there. Like you said, man, that's the truth. If you haven't ran into Adam, who knows if the Hoots Podcast even exists? So
it's amazing. It's amazing how wrestling brings people together.
Yeah, my WrestleMania trips has been a little different. Sometimes it's business oriented, where I'll go to the shows and then I have to type out the article back at the hotel, so I don't get. I'll admit I haven't had the opportunity to check out WrestleCon show.
Okay.
Or anything. I haven't had that chance. I'm hoping I could do it this time. But a lot of times, this is when NXT was also getting hot too. I remember 34. I went to the Takeover show. It was the day before WrestleMania 34, and I was excited because that Takeover ended up being one of the best ones that they did.
Right.
But that day, I wanted to go check out Ring of Honor because they're having a lot of New Japan guys, and my favorite New Japan wrestler is Tomohiro Ishii. That's my favorite New Japan guy. I was like,
nice.
Oh man, I wanted to go check out that Ring of Honor show. I guess somebody told me that that Ring of Honor show went way too long, and Cody and Omega went like 40 minutes or something like that. So I was like,
weird.
I guess I made the right choice then.
Weird that Cody was in a long match on a big show. You know what's cool, dude? So when we did 32, right? At that time, I was in this other podcast, me and a co-host that we'd put 3 years in at this point on that show, and we were doing a thing with this place called Rabble TV. At the time, it was like breaking, and these guys were like paying us to do this at the time. Like they were just launching, they wanted to have someone do like pro wrestling for them. The whole idea was people could do their own play-by-play or commentary to a game, and like other fans can go on that Rabble website and listen to that commentary while they watch. And their whole thing was like, yo, everybody hates Joe Buck, right? Well, now you don't have to listen to him. And they were paying us to watch Raw and just give live commentary. So I was like, hey, you guys are brand new. You're launching. They were out of like Tennessee or something. I was like, you should do WrestleCon. We're going to be in Dallas. We could definitely just, sit at the booth for you guys. And it turned out that they ended up, they got a booth. They paid our flight. They paid our hotel that week. And we set it up too, so the people at WrestleCon can come and do it. And the funny story from this, so this part isn't funny, but one day we were, because we're in a booth, and a lot of these booths are like wrestling toys, merch, stuff like that, or the wrestlers themselves doing their autographs. So the first day, no one was next to us. No one ever showed up to the booth next to us, and it was just kind of like, okay, cool. We ended up finding out later it was supposed to be China, and this is also like 2 days before they found her passed. So that was a little But then the last day we were there, Billy Gunn was next to us doing his autographs, and he had his whole family there. He had the two boys, Austin and Colton, and his wife, and we're there all day. It's like a 5-6 hour convention, so we're there all day. And obviously they're asking us like, well, what are you guys doing? What's this all about? So I have a picture, and I don't know where it is. I would have to find it. I have a picture somewhere of Billy Gunn's sons doing play-by-play at our booth to a match of the New Age Outlaws and Too Cool. And literally Billy, Grandmaster Sexy, and Scotty Too Hotty are all standing behind them, watching them do this. And I got a picture of it. I don't remember where it went. And it's just small world shit like that, dude. That's just so crazy, because now these guys are on AEW. They're entertaining. Like Austin Gunn, to me, it's entertaining as hell. Like, I think he's like the vlog stuff on TV, the way the way they're playing this ass boy stuff with Danhausen, it's entertainment gold. It's entertaining. So when they were in Minneapolis Full Gear, because, obviously that's my backyard, we were there. We went to the Max Caster rap show after Rampage when they were up here at a club downtown, and Austin rapped at it. And tons of the talent were there. They had their whole section. And they walked by me and I was like, hey, they were talking to somebody that was next to me that's like a big hardcore, one of those real hardcore fans of theirs, but they know me too. So they were talking to them. Well, I kind of casually was just like, I don't know if you guys remember this, but WrestleMania 32 Dallas at WrestleCon, I started saying, all of a sudden the one was like, and I was like, you guys did like play-by-play, and they're like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, that was me. I ran that booth. They were like, that was you. And I made it nice as could be, man. Like, they were super like, dude, we totally remember that. That was like, we talk about it all the time. And it's just shit like that, where it's like, what kind of world, just doing a podcast that this led me here. Like you're going down there and work. Cause that's also a pretty tripped out thing when you're like being sent to Mania to work. Cause then you're like, man, I grew up watching this every year, dreaming of just being there. And then when you go, and I'm interested to know your take on this, because the first time I ever went, dude, 26, Phoenix, Michaels is going to retire.
Right.
Didn't know it when we bought the tickets, but I mean, as soon as that, it became very, very special when that was the deal. And I remember walking into University of Phoenix Stadium. I don't even know if it's called that anymore, but that's what it was then. And I remember walking in there. We were like, we got dropped off and we had to walk like a half mile to get to it because the line of cars just to get to that stadium was insane. And I remember we walked in and it was looking straight across at the stage. And it was just this surreal moment of a diehard fan of just being like, I'm in like the Holy Land. Like, I've dreamt my whole life of being at a WrestleMania because I want to be there and be at these major history-making moments that happen in the world of wrestling. And here I mean, it almost brings a tear to your eye when you walk in, and then like it's this electric feel that you're like, I'm here. And then when you go and you're like, shit, man, I'm here and I'm working. And I'm now like rubbing like Billy Gunn's just hanging out next to us all day, shooting the shit with us. And next to us with these guys who make tidy whiteys, but they're in trunks. They're in the trunk style. So like they gave me a free pair. And so I have like these, brief underwear that are Rick Rude under. They look like Rick Rude's trunks. You know what I mean? And it's like, because I was there working, and you start like meeting these people and make it. It's just it's crazy. And it is the cool thing about podcasting and stuff for wrestling fans is if you're good and you can build that audience, you started as a fan, but it can end to where you're having those surreal moments as a fan because you and I are both still fans to this day. That doesn't leave once you start getting more involved. It becomes more work, especially for you. And even for me now, when I do, I do some stuff for IPW at Impact Pro Wrestling out of Des Moines, Iowa, where I'll go to their shows and then we'll film and I'll do some commentary for them and play-by-play. And I mean, like, even those, it's like stressful days. It's a stressful day getting there, getting set up, getting the cameras dialed in, working with no internet. So we're hotspotting off the phone. So it's really like just all that stress. But then at the end of the night, it's like, hey, man, but you were a fan and all you ever wanted in your life was to kind of be around this industry. And well, guess what? Now you're in it. Now you're in it. You're in it, at least on the indie scene. And to be honest, doing the show with Wes was a big door opener for me as well. I mean, dude, some of the names that I've gotten to interview literally because of just the Wes Briscoe connection. I mean, we did a live show in Waterloo, Iowa this last year. And it was me, him, Red Velvet, which is his fiance, and Mark Henry. That was the show. We've had Heath Slater on. We've had Dr. Tom Pritchard on. We've had Chavo Guerrero on. We just had Mike Knox on a couple months ago, right before he actually was, when we did the interview with Mike Knox, he was saying, don't tell anybody yet, but like, yeah, next week I debut on NWA. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. We had, and this is a controversial name, but we had Marty Scurll on literally in the height of where is he going to sign?
Yeah, that was a transitional period. I remember him having back and forth with Nick Aldis at that time period too, right?
Yeah, and it was when everybody was dead set he was going to AEW. It was before he signed to be, was it Impact?
Yes.
No, it was was it ROH that he signed on to be creative and all that? I can't remember.
It was creative for Ring of Honor. The last wrestling deal I think he was NWA.
Okay.
Yeah. Rocket Cup. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, so we had him on then. I mean, it's just, it's pretty insane how, and same thing for you working hard on and doing what we're doing, just sharing our love of something with other people and then making those connections and just how that ball can grow and just keep rolling.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's very much insane on how it goes. You know what I mean? So yeah, dude, I don't know. That went off on a really weird thing because we were talking about like Mania and the days and all that stuff. But
Oh, you brought it back full circle. I get where you're going. Yeah. I like you said, having that experience of walking into your first WrestleMania. I was 11 years old at the time, going to check out WrestleMania.
Oh wow!
And walking into the Rosemont Horizon, and this is the unique. This is actually the last WrestleMania they had inside a basketball arena before they went to the stadiums, and getting to see all the flags around the building. The stage looked like the Sears Tower. I'm not calling it the Willis Tower, folks. I'm not doing it, okay? But
dude, I didn't even know they changed the name, man. I said that like a year ago or what. I don't even remember how long. I was just like, oh, the Sears Tower. Like, it's not called that anymore. I'm like, whatever. It's the Sears Tower. Like, it's always been the Sears Tower.
Yeah, it's kind of similar with trash. If somebody's character name is changed on WWE, I'm still calling it what it was before. I have it already mentally locked in. You're not going to make me do mental gymnastics trying to remember another one that's talked about a million times,
Dude, I'll tell you what, like Bryan Danielson was the worst, man, because when he left and then went to AEW, just for so many years, and let's be honest, that whole run into Mania 30 where he ended up winning the belt was such an iconic run. Right. And that kind of broke mainstream. I mean, when you had like basketball arenas doing yes chants for their teams, I mean, that really crossed over. So when he made that switch and this whole, since he's debuted there, I mean, I'll be the first to tell you, how many times I say Daniel Bryan still when we're talking about him on the shows, and then it's like, Bryan Danielson, and it's just like, he's been, and I get it, his indie run was Bryan Danielson and all that, but again, when you had such an iconic moment and run, and you just went from the guy who got fired because you choked Justin Roberts out with his tie during the takeover to all of a sudden you just became the biggest underdog in the world and then won. And at 30, let's be honest, those 10 mark, those every 10-year anniversaries of Mania, they're always a little bit bigger, always a little bit special, more special. So being at 30 and having the two matches, beating Triple H, and then doing the triple, I mean, it's an iconic run and payoff that it's like, it's hard to ever see him now other than Daniel Bryan. I'm getting better at it, but
can you believe that's 8 years ago?
No, I cannot. Honestly, I can't. It's just insane how much is it's so funny because you see those guys like him and Punk being in AEW right now. It's awesome. It's cool. Yeah. But it's like those guys are the veterans and the old guys now. Like, when did that happen? Man, I have so many memories of them being the top guy, especially Bryan, because it's been even more recent that it's like, man, wait, now he's the old guy on the run. And not to say like old, like he's not like Arn and Tully on the roster over there, but he's he's the veteran guy, one of those guys there now that it's like, wait, when did that change though? You know what I mean? And now you see like a Billy Gunn, you see like a Road Dogg, you see Michaels, and these guys are now the like old timers, where when I was in the height of my days of loving this stuff, it was like, we're seeing, Freddie Blassie, Bobby Heenan, you're seeing Gorilla Monsoon, you're seeing all those guys, Harley Race getting inducted into the Hall of Fame and all that stuff. And it's like, they're the old timers. And now it's like the guys that I idolized for years and was like really, really cemented that wrestling will be in my life forever are now the old timers. It's like, shit, I'm getting old now too.
Brother, it's like crazy. I look back at that Mania. I've had a couple of moments in my life where I was like, anybody in life, you have certain moments that hit you where you like, this is what I have to do. This is what I want to be part of, And that first WrestleMania went to just hit me like a ton of bricks, just being in that atmosphere. Seeing Ray win his first world championship, that was a cool moment. RVD winning that crazy Money in the Big Ladder match, talking about OGs, Ric Flair getting superplexed off a ladder,
Yep. And that's what's cool, man. Like, the very first wrestling podcast. I'm a radio guy. I went to school for radio broadcasting. I was working in radio at the time of when I started going to like the Mania shows and when like I started podcasting. I actually remember it was literally the week after I got home from WrestleMania 29 on the East Coast that we did our very first episode. And it was the first episode I've done of any wrestling podcast. And it wasn't that Mania trip that did it. It was actually 28 when we went to Miami, me and some friends. It was that trip where it was like, so we used to be called PBI. It was the PBI guys, wrestling guys. It was me and another dude. And the reason it was PBI is so in Miami, it stood for Parmesan Boys International, and this is a crazy story. We were having fun, and one of the guys with us who ended up being the co-host of this show, the very first night in Miami, after it's like 2 a.m. and we're just blacked out. Decided to go to the Gentlemen's Club that's like a half mile away that we had to walk through like the absolute ghetto of Miami to get to, and thought we were gonna die. One guy was always joking about like, oh yeah, Miami Scarface, man, blow the yayo and whatever. Well, he was so drunk on his walk home, he bought some, and I used to work in the bars and stuff back in these days, so like I've been around stuff. So I mean, I'm not an idiot. I know what's real and what's not. Yeah. So when we get to the room, I'm like, dude, you just bought like that. Like that ain't real. That looks like it's tan. It's not even white. It's tan. Like that. So the running joke is that he bought Parmesan cheese and he was snorting it. That was the running joke, and we became PBI. But really, what it was is it was the once in a lifetime moment. And I'll always forever talk about this. I've never felt a crowd erupt like they did when Rock won and beat Cena that night.
Yeah,
that's an very open air stadium, and it was shaking. It was insane. I mean, I will admit it. I'm not a great man for this. I will admit it. I literally laughed in the face of like some like 10-year-olds behind us because they were Cena fans. Got lost in the moment though, man. I mean, I was a Rock mark, dude. That was my dude in the Attitude Era heyday. That was my guy, So at that time it was like, oh, he ain't losing to Cena. Like they ain't gonna put Cena over him. Like if they do that, this place is gonna riot. Like, you know what I mean? And that was where I was like, dude, all I want to do is go home and talk about this with anybody who loves wrestling, because that was such a cool moment, and I was there. I remember everything about that whole thing. P. Diddy coming out to introduce MGK coming out doing Cena's song. He does that stupid, this is more than a wrestling match. This is good versus evil, and just tried to paint Cena as the underdog, and the crowd instantly turned on him and they just booed him the whole time. and then Flow Rider coming out and doing what he does, and everybody's just like, all right, cool. We've heard this song about 1 million times leading up to this show, but yeah, okay. Go Flow Rider. And then like when The Rock came out, it was just because that was the other thing. The like 30 seconds, however long it was from Flow Rider ending to when it hit. If you smell, the anticipation, and it's so funny how it's like it's a gimmick. It's a character, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. Well, that night it definitely was true, because those like 5 seconds before his song hit from when Flow Rider ended, the feeling in that crowd was like, it felt like a volcano about to erupt. People were just waiting for it to hit, lost their shit. And then it was, but I mean, that says a lot for Dwayne Johnson. And let's be honest, he's one of the biggest,
it's one of the
these guys in the world, period, in everything he does. So it's like, that says a lot to him. But that was just like, dude, I have to be around this more. And I want my hands in it somehow.
Those was one of those atmospheres they just can't miss. I remember that, of course, with Punk and Cena for Money in the Bank. I was at that show. Just like you're saying, like, riots could come out if John Cena won and stuff like that. It's just some of those aspects you can't defeat. Hell, even when Seth Rollins cashed in his Money in the Bank, I remember how crazy that stadium was going on when he cashed in. That's the charm of pro wrestling, and when it's great, it's
it's so good.
let's talk about this a little bit. You're talking about you do some commentary out there, and I wanted to add this on where we can talk a little bit about the transfers as well, because I actually wanted to get into the business. This has been one of my goals going forward for the next couple of years, and I've been, for better or worse, I've been part of the wrestling media for the last 8 to 9 years now, and I've been making transcripts for a living. We're to the point where I'm working from home now, and been very fortunate that people throughout the industry have reached out to me and liked my transcripts and stuff like that. And the reason I have the site is not just for me. I mean, yes, it's a good outlet tool. I probably have like 500 wrestler movesets, a lot of things in my going threshold. But this is something for me that I wanted to have for people that do shows like this, use it as a point of reference. And I think context is something that's really missing in a lot of wrestling talk shows or video shows. And it's just I'm glad to have the website out there for everybody, but it's also been a good learning tool for me as well, because I want to get into doing play-by-play. That's been always one of my goals. I went to a broadcasting school downtown Chicago. You mentioned WrestleMania 29. The week after that is my first day at my broadcasting school that I went to.
Nice.
So it's crazy how all this starts bringing it together,
Hell yeah.
And, I've been doing this, and I can only speak for myself. I'm very grateful in the success that this podcast has had over the last 6 years. A large part of that is due to the chemistry that me and Adam had on air. I will say that without him, this show would not get to where it is today. Get to talk to. I've been very fortunate to run into people that I can call friends, but also brothers who also work in the industry.
Yeah.
And with the work I do, it's my goal to pay respect for the people behind the scenes. I've never been in the business. You rarely hear me talk about booking on any of my shows or anything like that, because I want to learn from people who actually do it or are in the industry. And for me, I want to have this cool conversation, because like I have a friend of mine that I've also done podcasts as well. His name's referee Tony. He's a referee out in the Boston area. Nice. And he's had a lot of connections throughout the industry. He actually got to officiate a NWA World's title match with Nick Aldis and Trevor Murdoch. I think it's the Charlotte NWA convention. I think they did last year. Anyway, okay. I have a couple friends. I have Tony. I have you, who's also worked in the industry. So tell everybody about your experience getting into commentary, and what's your thoughts on how the industry is covered in the good or bad parts of it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, so for me, dude, and this sounds horrible, but I don't know. Like I turned 40 in May, and I'm feeling pretty old lately. So dude, like 15 years ago, if you would have been like, what move was that? What move was that? What move was that? What move was that? I would boom, 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 boom. I'm not going to lie. I'm not that great anymore, man. There's many times that I'm like, oh, wow, that was a great move. Look at that impact, because it's like, well, I don't remember. And second of all, like the hard part now, I sometimes blame Excalibur for this when you hear him on AEW. A simple move now, like a simple DDT could have 15 different names now.
Uh-huh.
And you don't know, and it's just hard. My whole thing on commentary now, and I'm new at it, guys. This is my first year at it. I'm like 5 shows deep, but I've gotten to do some cool shows, and I've gotten to call some cool matches. I've got to call, Wes Briscoe tag in with Colt Cabana, and some other indie guys in like a 3 tag team match dance. That was cool. I got to call, some Heather Monroe stuff. I got to call Aiden England. Like I've gotten to call matches for some cool people, but it's like my whole thing, knowing that my weak point right now, and I'm working on it. I'm getting better. I'm reading, I'm studying. I'm just trying to learn the move. Like you said, so many move sets because you're transcribing. I'm not. When I'm watching it, I'm getting lost in it as a fan. I don't have to go back like you do and break it all down. I watch it, I enjoy it, and then it goes, because then I'm on to the next thing. So like my thing is, I'll hit it when I can as far as the move sets, but really commentary for me, and this is kind of something I was told getting into it, specifically with the company I'm helping out with, was it's not about me, and it's not about really what I'm saying. Like, really what it comes down to is my job doing that is just putting the guys in the ring over, making both of them look good, as well as telling whatever, helping to put words to whatever the story is these two are telling. Something that was a cool thing that I did was Waterloo. They did, you guys heard me say this a few times. I'll explain it. In Waterloo, Iowa, there's a National Wrestling Hall of Fame, brick and mortar building, and it's also the Dan Gable Museum. So if you're an amateur Greco-Roman style wrestler, you know who Dan Gable is. He's king of that world. So every year, though, they do an induction ceremony, and they have a professional wrestling wing, and it's the George Traguz Luthez Hall of Fame weekend. And it's every year. It's like the third weekend of July every year in Waterloo, Iowa. And like people who have a really big hand in this are people like Jerry Briscoe, like JJ Dillon, Thunderbolt Patterson, people like this. And I've been going to this weekend for years. This is actually where I met Wes Briscoe, again, Jerry Briscoe's kid's son. And, you know, and you talk about like those moments of being a fan and wanting to get into it, you know, my birthday this year, you know, it's tripped out to get a message sent to me by Jerry Briscoe and pictures of us together and him being like, happy birthday, Ace. I hope you have a great, you know, and it's like, man, I watched this guy. First of all, I watched old matches of him when he was tagging with his brother. I've watched him when he just had old matches single. And no one will forget the heydays of the Stooges. I mean, you know, we wouldn't be calling people Stooges like we do probably if it wasn't for him and Patterson. Yeah. And now to have this guy send me just a personalized happy birthday because this guy knows me. I'm somewhat in that circle now because his son's one of my closer friends now, you know, and it's an amazing thing. But going back to the commentary, we did a tournament. So there was a bracket tournament, and you know, it was Joshie. These are some indie guys you may know, Midwest guys. You may have heard of some of these guys too. Joshie, the front man, Joshie was in it. Jeremy Wyatt was in it. One called Manders was in it. Drama King Matt was in it, who I'm sure you know very well. Chicago boy. AJ Smooth and I think like James Jeffries, which are like the two Iowa guys that were in it. Yeah. Through this whole thing, when we got to the final match that night, it was Jeremy Wyatt and Joshie, and they had been telling this whole story of the tournament. But then, like when we got to that match, you know what I mean? Like Jeremy Wyatt takes Joshie out right away on the ramp, takes his knee out. The entire match was built around that injury. You know what I mean? And it was one of the best matches I've seen live, period, for 2021. It was hands down one of the best matches I was able to witness in person because they just did something you don't get from all these major companies right now. And again, you got to look at these national broadcasting contracts and the time limits that they're getting from all these companies and stuff. But I mean, for me, something that I feel I miss in wrestling now is really just the good old fashioned storytelling. And these two in that ring told such a great story with that injury and him and Jeremy Wyatt zeroing in on that and me being able to just, with my words, paint the story of just how the knee was taken out and like all this stuff. And then eventually, you know, Joshie loses because of it. And to me, it was like, that's where I get off on commentary. That's where I geek out. Cause it's like, you guys are giving me something that I can get behind and just, you know, over this whole, you know, 15, 20-minute match, really just express what's going on in this ring. So when you get the close-up look of Joshie in the ring and just agonizing pain and holding the knee, you know, I have that chance to just, you know, put into words what he's feeling and how could Jeremy Wyatt be happy with a win and be the tournament champion when he does it this way, you know, like that kind of stuff. And it's like, it brings me back to Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, who were like two of my favorite commentators. Those two together was magic. And again, no, you can never not say Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler, also two guys who are amazing. And also, I'll say Vince McMahon was pretty good on commentary. I always enjoyed Vince.
Not too shabby.
No, man, no, I loved it. Oh, what a maneuver, dude! And it's fun to like hear myself when I watch some of this stuff back and be like, oh. Because it's like I'm like a kid again. It's like, dude, I watch these heroes of mine do this stuff, and now I get to do it for these like guys who are busting ass. You know, I mean, the Midwest right now, Jad, and you might know it because you guys got some stellar independent promotions out in that area you're in. But the Midwest specifically, it's got talent up the ass right now. I mean, just again, you've got just so many great talent coming up right now from, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, that it's just insane. It's insane what we're seeing right now. So doing these shows in the Midwest for me is a blast because I'm seeing guys that we all know are going somewhere in the next couple of years. Calling something for a Joshie who's this last year took over a lot of these shows in the Midwest, was on a lot of them, doing great. He's somebody, and we've seen him on Dark already. Doing stuff for calling matches for a Heather Monroe, who's somebody that's like, if you ask me, it's insane she hasn't been signed by WWE or AEW yet. Just a hell of a talent in Heather Monroe, and to know that I had a little bit of like, I called a match for them. That's cool to me, it really geeks you out. But I mean, coming down to it, man, if you can't make the talent in the ring bigger and larger than life, you're not doing your job. And that's where you hear it in commentary. You hear some guys who are in it for themselves and they want to be famous because I'm the guy on the mic. You're hearing my voice. I'm the voice of this promotion. Well, that's cool, but like, it's not about you.
It's never about you.
You're not the star unless you're gonna get hit by somebody. That's the fun thing. You have some stuff like with Impact Pro Wrestling. There's a couple guys that are heels that we have some fun when the mics are on, and I'm the middle guy. I'm keeping it good. But my partner is Maddie Starr, who is a lot of people don't like Maddie Starr, and Maddie Starr has a lot of strong opinions. And Maddie Starr likes to yell at me a lot, especially when he's in the ring and I'm still sitting at the table. He'll make a point to yell at me, especially if he loses. It's my fault.
Would some people call him a stooge?
Some people would call him a stooge. I will say an amazing, amazing talent. But yeah, some may call him a stooge. But I mean, like it's just so much fun to get lost in it. You know what I mean? You'll have a blast, and I have no doubt you're going to eventually get on a mic and be able to do this with some people. And that's the fun part, man. Just getting lost in it. And we talked about this before we went on. You look at the big companies now, and it's hard for people who want to get into commentary and play-by-play wrestling wise right now, because you go to WWE and they've kind of shifted their teams so much in the last year. And I'll tell you this though, they hit gold with Pat McAfee and Michael Cole. Gold. Love McAfee.
Absolute gold. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Raw, it is what it is. At Dynamite, you got 3 really strong talents, but 2 of them are kind of past the prime and kind of are all over the place. And then Excalibur is just there to try to hold it all together. And there's times that it works really well, and then there's times that it just falls completely apart. So it is rough to kind of have some people to look at. NWA's all right. I was watching some of that before we went on live today with, and I don't even remember. I know Velvet Sky. I know the was it American Idol?
Joe Galley.
And Joe Galley. Yep. And again, and it's cool. It's good stuff. And I like that dynamic. I always enjoyed when they had Renee on commentary on Raw. I know she did. After hearing you end up hearing she didn't like it. It wasn't for her. But I always enjoyed that. But shortly after she got on it was very clear of, well, they're not letting her talk. Like what's going on here?
Yeah, commentaries. A lot of the main reasons why I got hooked into wrestling in the first place. I've always asked, people ask me like, who got you hooked into wrestling? It's JR. Without JR, I'm not the wrestling fan I am today. And I've been, when it comes to transfers, I've really been, a lot of the references I go to and pattern the transfers after is from Kevin Kelly of the world's Matt Striker as well when he was on Lucha Underground. Nigel McGuinness, who's my favorite WWE commentator right now outside of Pat McAfee. Let's see who else. Mauro Ranallo, of course.
Such a stud. I mean, to be able to go and call most commentary teams, you got your color guy, you got your maybe, and if it's a 3-man team, you got your heel guy, you got your babyface guy, you got your straight man. Morrow was one of those guys that could be color but straight at the same time, as far as like he can call it play by play, but he can throw those little nuggets of just like pop culture and tie it to what just happened. Like, oh, that's like Kanye getting left by Kim, and just shit like that. That is just like, where did he just get that reference? Like, this guy's on fire. Like, have you seen his documentary?
Yes, it's
good. Oh my God, amazing.
By the way, folks, we on this podcast we've always talked about the importance of mental health. If you guys have not seen Morrow's documentary about his mental health challenges in life, please go out of your way to watch it. I think it's still on the Showtime app. If you guys have that, go out of your way to go check out that documentary.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. And like you said, mental health is no joke nowadays. And you and I have had those talks before, and it's something that we all still deal with every day. A lot of us do. I mean, I had a bad episode this weekend, but making it through now, and that's just it's one of those things. It's every day at a time. And you take a step forward, and that was something Morrow did. But then that's where you also hear those toxic sides of the industry too, where you hear the stories of how he was getting treated by JBL and someone that being in that state of mental health. It's not good to be around someone who has that personality of very much of like a bully. But again, too, JBL is old school, and there's no denying wrestling back in the day was very much, there was a lot of that going on. And there was a lot of know your place, know when to speak, know who to speak to, show these people respect. If you don't, you're done, like all that kind of stuff. And, so it's such a weird thing that, yeah, I mean, if you have really, really horrible mental health, this may not be the industry for you, but if you got some thick skin, you're going to be all right, but you're going to have some real down moments too. It's just how it goes, but that's like everything. But yeah, Morrow is just a killer, man. I love it. Even when he's doing boxing, I love it. Like, I just love it, and then to go on to, I mean, like John Madden, Pat Summerall, you get guys like that. I mean, just good, Howard Cosell, all these things from back, these are all guys that what they did on a mic watching these sports games and these events, you take a little bit of all that. And you take a little bit and you can bring that into the world. I mean, even Joe Rogan doing UFC.
Yep.
Dr.
Joe Rogan. Yeah, when it comes to Morrow, he really helped me out a lot, because this is when I was getting to do the Cruiserweight Classic. And this was my first time being exposed to a lot of different wrestling styles, to where I am right now, where I could do a British show like NXT UK every week, which is my personal favorite WWE show that they do each week. Is NXT UK. Yeah. And get to learn that style, and then Japan, and then Lucha Underground was a big thing. I had a semi-working relationship with Lucha Underground, where they would have people come on my old radio show when I was going to school.
Okay.
And, they would come on Wednesdays, because it was a Wednesday night show. They would come on Wednesday morning, and I would have chances to talk to like Chavo Guerrero, and talk to Johnny Mundo or John Morrison, whatever the fuck you want to call him.
Yeah.
Sides. I even got to talk to Christian Joseph, who was the booker of the show. That was kind of a cool experience to do that as well. But
nice. Quick shout out to Chavo though, because Chavo's my boy. I've had a few interactions with Chavo, and that guy don't ever let me down. I love that dude.
I'm happy for all the extra stuff he's doing outside of wrestling, and just producing, and a lot of the stuff he did with Glow, and a lot of that other stuff is pretty dope. That dude's he's living a good life right now.
Yeah, and now he's doing Young Rock, right? Isn't he doing the stuff for Young Rock? I mean, and that just speaks again to Dwayne Johnson on how this guy never forgot his wrestling. Like he very much takes care. You saw when he gave Harvey Whippleman. He gave Harvey Whippleman a truck like 6 months ago, and it was on his social media, and it was like, who? Like, I remember, dude. I remember going to a Monday Night Raw. This is back in 2002 or 3, 4 maybe. Yeah. And we went outside. We were there early trying to meet everybody as they're driving in. And the little dude was like walking around the production trucks, and nobody was talking to him. And I was like telling my boy, I'm like, dude, that's Harvey Whippleman. Like, you guys don't remember Harvey Whippleman? They were like, no. And I'm like, you guys didn't watch back in like the 80s and 90s, and that's Harvey Whippleman. Yeah. And like he walked by, I was like, Harvey, and he was like, huh? And I was like, yeah, like, and it's cool, man, to see someone like The Rock like pay his dues to that guy. Like, it's insane, man. Good for him, man. And yeah, that's awesome. That's so awesome.
You're bringing up a lot of the independent talents, and I've been able to check them out on Dark and Elevation. I remember going to the show that Punk debuted. I saw a lot of they were taping like 20 matches with Dark or something like that before Punk came out. That show at the United Center, and like you said, Heather Monroe, Joshie, Sky Blue, who's another one that's making a name for herself. There's just a lot of really interesting talents that I get to see throughout the years, and I try to catch up with them. When it comes to the AEW transfers, I feel like I'm the only wrestling media member who treats it like a sports, because they did promise it was going to be a sports-based wrestling organization. Right. So I've kept touch with the wins and losses. I don't do stats like that. I don't have the time to even come up with that. That's another world that I do not want to get myself into. But anyways, like when it comes to the transcripts and stuff, I've had such a different process with the shows that I cover, because I have with New Japan, there's a lot of longer length matches, so I'm kind of used to that process of typing out a match that probably have 5 or 6 paragraphs. Right. It's like, it's not a guess, but it's just I'm pointing out the different parts of the match. It's not just paragraphs of moves. I'm showing you, like, let's say it was a TV show, right? Let's say like it's Raw tonight. I'll point out when it's commercial break. Next paragraph that gets into the next part of the match. So the transcript part of it has really been interesting for me, because I go into a broadcast, so I know what TV formats look like. I know how that process goes. And, doing AEW shows now for the last 3 years, or how long they've been around now, it's different process, because they have the picture thing that that's kind of that kind of extends the length of the transfer release. I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy to sit through sometimes. But let's talk about this. Right now, I'm covering around 18 shows a week on a non-pay-per-view week. If there's something pops up, maybe 19 or 20 shows.
You're crazy.
I am crazy, yes. So, like, for example, tonight I have Dark, Elevation, and Raw. And then I think it's like the middle part of the week that I get the busiest. Like Tuesday's Hell Day. I got Power, NW Power, NXT 2.0, and then Dark, because Dark is the longest show of all time.
I know.
But like, it's like, I look at the industry right now, and it's like there's stuff that I could pick out and I enjoy. But we were talking about this before we came on air today. Like, I'm at the point right now where I'm not, my fandom or my interest in the business is not dictated on whether one show is good or not. Because there's so much shit that I'm covering throughout the week that I can pick out the stuff that I want for it to fit whatever fix I need. Like, we all have our things to get our wrestling fix. And, it's a shame that a lot of people like feel like they have to have this barrier of, oh, I'm this person, this is the type of wrestler I like it. If you're not, you're a piece of shit. And I just don't agree with that strategy. Like, I hold no punches in how I feel about stuff. There's stuff from AEW that I don't like. I don't like the fact that a lot of the tag team matches are like a fucking circus and they make the referees look stupid. But that's just my opinion,
I do love that when they do that, though. JR will always call it out. Yeah, like that does make me laugh every time, where he's like, "Oh, there's just too many guys in the ring. Someone's got to do something." Like, it's hilarious, because it's like, well, yeah, we're all thinking that. And it's true. And it's I'll tell you what, this last year and a half, 2 years, I don't want to say right when AEW launched, but maybe after their 6-month mark, when things really started picking up for them. And I mean, I could not do what you do. I mean, keeping up with every promotion out there, almost everyone, is insane. But I'll tell you what, it's been hard to remain a fan of wrestling, specifically the last, like, I'd say year. And it has nothing to do with the product that we're getting, because like you said, you're going to be able to find good and bad things in every product you watch. WWE's got some really good things. They got some really shitty things. AEW's got some really good things. They've got some really shitty things. And you can say what you want about either or company, but what's made it really hard for me this year is the fans.
Yes.
This divide of, like you said, you hold no punches and you'll give your opinion. And then we all should be able to do that. And then, if you want to talk about it and then move on. But to see the divide in the wrestling world, the wrestling community over AEW and WWE, and to see just, first of all, how fans are treating each other over these two companies is ridiculous. Second of all, to see fans go against talent online, specifically from those other companies that they don't like, it's pretty hard, man. I mean, when you see some of these people have to not have social media because they're getting told to die every day from people just because, well, I'm a WWE guy, so fuck you. And it's like, dude, when the stuff with Punk and Bryan happened and there was fans losing their minds, like, fuck that, how dare they turn their back on Vin? It's like, first of all, guys, it's business. If you were offered a job that was more money and less stress and you're going to enjoy it more, would you take it or would you stay where you are and be loyal? Shut up. You're going to take it. I did this year. I loved where I worked, but I got a better opportunity. I had to go. And there's no difference for these people who are talent, especially when in the world of wrestling, they're not really working that company. Let's be honest. These guys are all still independent contractors. I know AEW has what they have going with a good chunk of their talent, and that is it was smart on Tony Khan to get a bunch of his talent to also have double duties to where then they can be company employees. I get that. That's cool, but you can't do it with your whole roster. And you're seeing that now. And then WWE, it's straight independent contractors. So I mean, it's like these people, they're being told what to do, but at the end of the day, it's also they don't want to take claim for if you did something wrong. Then it's just well, go away because you're not ours. But it's the fans that's just drove it insane for me this year because, again, it's I get it, but I love wrestling. You know what I mean? I was born in 82. My earliest memory of Mania was watching Mania 3. And my family, I was lucky enough to grow up with back in the day. We had a black box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Got all the free cable, all the free pay-per-views. So, I mean, back at my parents' house, man, there's somewhere a box that's just old VHSs that has all the 90s pay-per-views on them because I recorded all of them. You know what I mean? And that's what I grew up on, and I loved it. And then when you got exposed to other stuff, I remember seeing an ECW for the first time. I remember my first show. Let me tell you this, first show I ever saw live, and I'd be interested to hear your first live show. My very first live show, I had to have been 8-9 years old. It was 1989. It was AWA running in Rochester, Minnesota. And I had no idea then. I was just this little kid. My sister brought me. I remember seeing Slaughter. I remember for some reason as a little kid, being totally obsessed with Larry Zbyszko. I don't know why. I remember he cut a promo that night and it was all the Larry land. And I was just this guy's so cool. He don't care about anybody. He's F off to all of you. And I've gotten to meet Larry, and I told him that. I was first show I ever went to, I was 8 years old. I saw you and I was oh, who's that guy? I like him. Forget Sergeant Slaughter. That guy sucks. G.I. Joe's, whatever. Oh my God. Yeah. Fucking Larry Zbyszko. And now, realizing, I didn't realize it then, but it was man, those shows were special. That was the end of the run of AWA. It was a few years later, it all shut down. Yeah. And then you go to see the lineage and the history of that. I mean, I am one of those guys that always say Nick Bockwinkel is one of the best in the world, and the world would have saw it, but he was loyal too, and he didn't make the jump. If he would have made the jump, though, he'd be in the same name as Ric Flair and Freddie Blassie and Harley Race and all these guys, to where they all eventually did work with WWE or F, and it blew them up even bigger. And that's why, as a whole, the wrestling world looks at those guys like this, where depending where you grew up, if I tell you Nick Bockwinkel as a wrestling fan, you're gonna be like, who's that? And it's well, do your research.
Probably one of the best heels of all time.
By far. But yeah, it's just so crazy that I love pro wrestling. And like I said, I'll be the first to be like, so like my big gripe with AEW this whole time has been, you've got some really talented women and you're doing nothing with any of them. What are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? Like, that will always be, and it's still to this day as a gripe. They're slowly kind of coming around, but it's still like, you got a lot of girls and you ain't doing much with it. But the sad part is, as a whole, we're kind of seeing that women's evolution die. Because then you're kind of just seeing recycled stuff right now in WWE with their women's division. And did I hear they got rid of the tag titles?
No, there's still...
Okay. All right. So I thought I heard that and I was like, but I mean, and and then like with WWE, it's for me, it got really hard to watch the same guys work each other every week, the same mat. You can only see Reigns and or McIntyre fight the same guy every week before it's like, I'm bored. I'm kind of bored. I don't want to watch it anymore. You know what I mean? But then it's, certain stuff. Like, I'm an Alexa Bliss mark, and I have been since I've seen her in NXT, because to me, I'm a short guy. So anybody who's short and they're in wrestling and they're making it, I love you. Mysterio, all these people, like, I love them. And so for her, I'm a guy too, guys. I'll be, if anyone who's watching this is like, oh yeah, you like Select, yeah, beautiful girl, like, obviously gorgeous. If she was in front of me right now, I probably wouldn't be able to speak. And that actually happened to me once with AJ Lee. But I froze, dude. We were at WrestleMania 29 Axis. They took a break to do, they do the people who are in wheelchairs or whatever. They'll go do some of them, and then they come back to the line. They did that. I was next in line.
But I don't blame you, man. That's some good Rican waterfall there.
Yeah, they were like, okay, you can go up. And like, it was her, Dolph, and Big E. And I looked up at the table, and like her and I just like locked eyes, and she just like smiled, and I was just like,
oh boy,
hi. Like, I was a mess. But I mean, I love Alexa Bliss, I really do, and it was very frustrating to see what happened with her before the break. Especially to me, I had my biggest gripe with that whole thing was, you had her beat your women's champion clean, and then the next week you had her lose, but it was a dirty finish. It wasn't even a finish. It was like a DQ ending.
Yeah.
So in my mind, you just put her over your champ on a Raw, and then you just did nothing with it. Like, what was the point of letting your champion lose to her unless you wanted to have some plan? And at the time, they could have ran with it because it was the beginning of this whole new thing where the Fiend stuff was kind of playing in. And then, you fire Bray Wyatt. Now it's just like, well, where are we going? So the whole anticipation of her coming back last week. And I'm going to watch tonight. I want to see where this is going. But to see her come back and they're running with this character still, and now they're doing this therapy session. It's like, I'm interested to see where this is going to lead to, because again, in ring wise, she still has wins over people who were holding these titles, that it's like, and obviously we've seen that flashback last week when he showed the video and they watched Lily getting ripped up by Charlotte. So, I mean, obviously this has to be heading towards this Charlotte-her feud. I would assume her eventually taking the title again. Yeah. But I mean, it was getting hard to watch that kind of stuff too, where I was just like, but I love her so much and you guys are ruining her for me. What are you doing? And I don't need more Charlotte Flair. She's awesome. No one can say she's not talented, but like, give it a break. Things like that. It was the same with Drew McIntyre, dude. I love him, but it got to a point where I was like, I need less Drew McIntyre in my wrestling now.
That dude caught the worst break of anybody in wrestling. I appreciated Drew McIntyre stuff because I'm an in-ring guy, and the trans and stuff, and outside of Sheamus, who I thought was probably the most consistent guy, like dishing out bangers for WWE during that whole Thunderdome.
Yeah.
Think about that experience, typing out shows with no audience or no energy whatsoever. Yeah. But well, you said Alexa Bliss is the girl for you. They'd be like, oh, I can't say anything. For me, it's Becky Lynch.
Oh, I love Becky.
She's awesome.
I love Becky. So I do the show with Wes Briscoe, and he was in FCW for quite a bit of time, and he was also not in NXT, but he was at the Performance Center. training and stuff for a little while over there with a lot of these people too. So like, you know, he got to know a lot of these people for very well. You know, I was with him when we were at Waterloo and Seamus was there making an appearance. You know, oh, West boy, you know, and doing whatever. Like they're all very, very cool. But like, oh, Becky's the best. I got to see her right after she won the title. Was it off of Charlotte? I don't remember, at Mania or something. They did the house show on Easter in my hometown, and I had front row. The funniest thing, they did the pre-sale for the tickets, and they put the wrong pre-sale code on, so it wasn't working for anybody. And I was like calling Ticketmaster, like, what's going on? They couldn't figure it out. So then I, on a hunch, was like, I'm gonna try what they did last time they came, because it's not the same code. So I tried the code from the last time, and it worked. So I was like the first one that was able to buy any tickets because no one was able to use the pre-sale code that was like publicly out. So I got front row right away, and I was like, all right, hell yeah. And yeah, dude, like Becky was awesome. She, I don't have it on. I had it on yesterday. I had my bloody face Becky shirt on yesterday. I had that on, and she came, and you know, and her and Charlotte were at the intermission. So when they ended, it was intermission. So she did the whole walk around the ring, talking to fan. Like, dude, she came up to me, was like, "Oh, I love your shirt," and I was like, "Oh, I love you," and took a picture of me, and like was as nice as could be, like super just sweetheart, and just someone who like seeing her now when people are like, it's like, I like this though, because we didn't see any of this back then. Like, I like a heel Becky. I want to see her be like, no fucks given. I'm the king of everything. Like, I love it. I do love it.
I love this version, and don't get me wrong, I thought the whole, like, her run with the whole thing with Ronda Rousey going to that experience, it was cool and all, but I got a little bit too much of the Daniel Bryan vibes, as if, like, if Becky's in this, like, it was kind of like that fan force-feeding shit that I hate during Mania season. Every like, oh, if this person's not in the main event, this wrestling's gonna say, like, it got a little too much with that with me, but this new version with her is so cool and more versatile to my liking. And I've said this a lot, and I've got some flack because, God, you know, some people out there think Sasha makes the Shawn Michaels of fucking women's wrestling, but like, I'm sorry, like, I think that Becky collectively is the most well-rounded performer out of the four horsewomen in my opinion.
Yeah,
and she's doing stuff that some just can't do, whether it's getting people engaged with how she carries herself on the microphone. Like, hell, like, to even think you can consider Becky and Liv Morgan a bigger level match, that's the star power that she has and stuff like that. Like, let's talk about this really quick. What's your thoughts on the Tribal Chief?
Well, again, I mentioned earlier, I was there at 32 when it was the force feeding of him as the baby face, and it just wasn't working. And I think it was always because he has that look that he can come out and have an arrogant look and be like, I'm the shit. Like, you can't beat me. And so when they were forcing that, plus I think the hard thing was he was part of the Shield. He was running solo. They're pushing him as a baby face. And to me, it was like, well, Ambrose was the star of that group. In my eyes, people may not agree and people may go wrong. But in my eyes, he was the star of the group. He was also the first one they gave gold to in that group, if anybody remembers. So to me, it was just like, I don't like him, though. Like, I like him. Give me him as the baby. That doesn't work for him. I love the Tribal Chief. I love that he's finally just like, you can't be, I'm the shit. Get out of here. F you. Like, what? I love it. I think this is where he should have been the whole time. Him doing Tribal Chief, if he did a Tribal Chief against Triple H at 32, nobody would have been ready to go at that point. The people would have still been tired for how long that show is going, but people would have been way more invested. And I mean, they weren't that night. So, I mean, I love it. I love what he's doing. I love that they brought Brock back and had this whole with Paul in the middle, because no one can ever say Paul Heyman's horrible. I mean, the guy can facilitate a storyline for two talents like no one else. You know what I mean? And so, and then to have the Usos involved and like all, it's great. And that's the thing with WWE right now. They're running really good with certain things. The Tribal Chief is great. I thought Brock coming back, you know, it was an audible, but I wasn't mad that Brock won and that we're getting Brock and Bobby at the Rumble. I'm not mad at that. And I'm not generally a Bob Lashley guy, as Rusev would say. You know, but I never was, but I'm excited for that match. You know what I mean? And I get it. I get the grief, but it kind of comes back to those indie guys. Like Reigns wasn't an indie guy. He's been a WWE guy. So when you see people who are really upset with WWE, it usually goes back to those indie darlings, a Sami Zayn. For me, Kevin Owens. Like, I'm a Kevin Owens mark. And the fact that he hasn't had a really good actual, like, we're 100% in on you title run really bothers me. And it will till that day happens. And I don't know if it will. I hope it does, because he definitely proved how loyal he is when he could have left. He could have left and had the wrestling career he wanted. Maybe not the money, but he could have left and he could have had his way in AEW. There's no doubt that they would have signed him and that he would have done what he wanted creatively. He would have been working with the guys. But he's a loyal guy. He's doing what he's doing for his family. Completely understandable. You're getting that bigger check over there, but I just hope that they take, they appreciate that and we do see that run, because you talk about people like we were talking about Bliss, where it's someone who that short of stature but can go in the ring. Like, her DDT looks so nasty, but it's just because of her size, and I love it. But you see Kevin Owens throwing himself around the ring, and that's someone who looks like me. So when you see that and you're just like, this guy's doing shit that, like, some of these guys, like a TJ Perkins, you put him in the ring with there. It's like, cool, TJ Perkins can fly around the ring, but he ain't telling a story and tying it all together. Like, I mean, even when they did the Mania, COVID Mania, and it was just in the Performance Center. I mean, jumping off that sign, like, he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to put his body on the line like that, especially when he's not the most topped, physically fit guy on the roster. But he did it. And, you look at like a Mick Foley and that type of thing, and that's great. And Mick Foley was awesome for what he was doing. But I think Owens can do far more than Mick could, because he can also be a good technical wrestler in there. Let's be honest, Mick was a lot of big spots, a lot of big crazy just shit, where Owens can go. And we've seen this on the indie scene. That's where I get when fans are like that. But again, like, give it up on this whole AEW versus WWE. Just like what you like. Hope that what you didn't like gets better next week or overtime, and then give it up on that. But I mean, some of the things they're doing right now, I mean, like I said, I've never liked Reigns. Never liked him. And Tribal Chief comes around and I'm like, oh, I'm in. You got me. I'm in. We went to, I was at the SmackDown in Minneapolis, and it was the second SmackDown that had a crowd back. When they went back on
John Cena's back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, when he came out and signed, I think it was like Corbin was going to sign against Ray, and then Cena came out and knocked him out, and then just signed on with his own Sharpie. And I'll still say it to this day, that was the best live SmackDown I've ever been to. The energy was great. The whole thing, that was Sasha Banks' return, and then the turn on Bianca. It was stellar. And you hear people just shit about it, and it was awful. And yeah, maybe months later the product hasn't been as good as it was that show. They were just back on the road, so a lot of excitement, but it was a good time, man. So like, when people are like, screw it, it's like, well, you just don't like what's going on TV, but at the end of the day, if you had a ticket and you were there, you're gonna have a good time still.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, because you're a wrestling fan. So stop fighting each other, guys.
Yeah. Our good brother Adam always told me this, all worlds is stage. And I think that's probably the most realist quote that's out there, because it's true. All worlds is stage. Like, a lot of these people that go on soapboxes about, the wins and losses and booking or whatever are the same people that put it over in another company when they're doing the same exact shit that you don't like for the other show. And it's like, like, who are you trying to fool here? Like, for example, like Sean Ross Sapp, he says one thing for one show and he does it for another.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what you're trying to get out of Pound, because like, one thing I've realized in my experience covering the industry is the fact that you have to know what show you're watching at that time and what it is. I don't want all wrestling companies to be booked or presented the same way. That defeats the fucking purpose. Like, I love gazillion different genres of music. That is what it is. So like, when I'm watching a WWE show, I know I'm watching a WWE show. It may not be for everybody, but here's the thing. Here's what separates them from other people. They have an identity. You don't have to agree with how they go about their storytelling or what happens on a weekly show. You're talking about the stuff with Alexa Bliss. Over the years, I've grown to understand the part that a lot of stuff that goes on Raw, SmackDown specifically, is plot points.
Yeah.
Window dressing. It's a lot of window dressing. Then when sometimes I watch with AEW, I like a lot some of the backstage interviews and stuff here. They're like, I'm a big Eddie Kingston fan.
Oh, so good.
He's really, really good.
So good.
Hangman Page too. I like to see him feature more. Like sometimes I kind of forget he's the world champion, but they have a formatting issue with AEW.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes. Oh man, I'm gonna get some flack for this shit. Like I talk about this on my show, but like I feel they have a drop the load theory.
Yeah.
Where they gotta dish out. Okay, first 40 minutes, CM Punk, MJF, Young Bucks, Adam Cole. It's like you're in the first 45 minutes of the show, and then what the fuck else is there?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like I feel like it's a shame. Like you say, a lot of the fan engagement is taking the fun out of it. It's been taking out of the fun for me from a podcasting point of view because it's like you got people talking on both sides of their ass. They don't know what they want,
right?
And then like you got to be lumped into a certain subcategory of fandom. Like no, I don't have enough time to myself in the world to even care about what wrestling Twitter is and all that shit. And it's like we treat one of the coolest forms of wrestling, one of the coolest forms of entertainment for granted over the stupid minuscule stuff that has nothing to do with what we're seeing on the screen. And it's like, people talk about contracts and the releases and all this shit. Like, guys, don't talk about something you don't know anything about. I'm an independent contractor. I've been an independent contractor for 10 years. I know that process. You got to know what you're signing up for. And if you're into wrestling for art, you got to understand what you're signing for. If you know the WWE way is not what you want to do as a wrestler, that's on you. You got to understand the contracts that you're reading. I don't have to agree with their process and how they go about it. But again, it has no effect on me personally. Like it's just that's the frustrating part of it. Let's wrap up with some good stuff here. I'm really excited to come on your guys' show and get into all this stuff with the Rumble and stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait. One of my all-time favorite pay-per-views, probably my all-time favorite pay-per-view is the Rumble.
Have you got to attend a Rumble?
No. Okay, so bucket list for me, bro, is I have to be at least at one of the big four at least once. Yeah. So I've done Mania, like I said, I did what 26, 28, 29, 30, and 32 Manias. I did 99 SummerSlam here in Minneapolis, where Jesse the Body was the ring enforcer, threw Shane McMahon out of the ring. And then that's it. I've not been to Survivor Series. I almost pulled the trigger when it was down in your neck of the woods a couple years ago, but I just financially wasn't going to work out. And to be real honest, man, up until a couple weeks ago, I was like, that's an 8-hour drive to St. Louis. But then I was like, it's also like St. Louis, and it's also like, I don't want to go spend my week. So I'm not going. Hopefully they'll just go somewhere where I can just make a cool weekend trip out of it that I'll actually enjoy going. Because that's the thing, dude. Wrestling shows, dude. I love the weekend around it. I was in your neck of the woods for All Out, and had an amazing time that weekend. Just a great time. Only went to All Out. Didn't do any other AEW shows that weekend, but we went to like 2 or 3 GCW shows and just had a good time, man. It was really cool. And it's a cool area where they were doing that at Hoffman Estates, because it's all just kind of right there. It was just a lot of fun, man. But yeah, dude, Rumble, I've got to hit it. I'm more wanting to hit that than Survivor Series, because to me, I miss old school Survivor Series. I'm not down with brand versus brand. Like, let's tie it. I miss when it was tied to the storyline still. I miss when they were the captains because they were already feuding, and they're going to have a long program that's going to continue after Survivor Series. But for that one pay-per-view, they needed to go get a team, and that's how it was going to go. I'm not down. Like, you did 2 years of bragging rights and it didn't work. So what makes you think making Survivor Series the brand versus brand pay-per-view will still work just because it's called Survivor Series? Not like, bragging rights was shit. It was horrible. And I went to one of them. and it wasn't anything great. The best thing on that show was the Buried Alive, the very last Buried Alive match they've done with Taker and Kane that night. So I missed that. So Rumble is definitely the one that's like going to be checked off next, I think, WWE wise. I had hit All Out. Full Gear just magically happened to get moved to Minneapolis, which was like, all right, we're getting some love finally, which has always bothered me, knowing the rich history we have because of AWA and so many big talents making their name here on the indie scene before they blew up. Yeah. Really bothers me that Minneapolis gets overlooked and Minnesota as a whole gets overlooked as a wrestling town in our state. But so that was super cool. And then it was like, so Double or Nothing is always Memorial Day weekend, and it's always in Vegas. Well, that's my birthday, and this year's going to be 40. So it's like, why not go celebrate in Vegas, check out Double or Nothing, play some golf, whatever. So that's happening. Unless for some reason they don't do it that weekend, then that's not happening, and I'll just be there that weekend. But then it was like, well, shit. Should I go to Revolution and just hit all the big pay-per-views this year for AEW? I mean, I'm already going to hit 3. Should I just pull the trigger? And crazy enough, it's in Orlando, and it just happens to be I have a place to stay. I was actually already kind of planning to go to Orlando that weekend because that's where. Well, and that's where Wes Briscoe is at. That's where my boy Wes lives at. Him and Red are down in Orlando, and he actually has a show that weekend with Atomic Revolution Wrestling, which is another really great independent company out of Florida. Check them out. Yeah. So I was going to fly down just to go to that show and hang out for the weekend with him because I haven't been down there in like a year and a half to see him. Unfortunately, new job, all this stuff, it's just not going to work out. But at the time when they announced Revolution, I was still planning on going. So it was like, I mean, I have to go, right? Like I have to go. And he wouldn't go. The only way he would go with me is if like Red was actually on the card for the pay-per-view, then he would go. Otherwise he's like, I'm not going to waste my night and go. He doesn't need to be back there and see everybody. He knows everybody. He's done it before. And you know, a lot of his guys aren't there. The people he was like really running with back in the day. So he just little interest on him hanging out there to hang out, you know?
Yeah.
So he was like, I mean, probably could get you a ticket, but like, I'm not going. And I'm like, yeah, I understand. And then again, it just didn't work. So, but man, I've been a lot this year, but yeah, Rumble someday, man.
It's a shame that you guys get overlooked for shows. Minneapolis is definitely a territory that does not get the proper spotlight that it deserves. I will say, you know, outside of AEW, we get like fucking 10 shows here every yeah. For WWE, it's insane that we've never had a Royal Rumble. I guess for obvious reasons here, we probably not a smart idea, but
yeah, might hold off.
Yeah, I got a couple shows that I'm going to in a couple weeks. I told you obviously I'm going to Dallas for Mania, but I'm actually going to my first Dynamite show on the 2nd. They got a new arena downtown by Soldier Field.
Oh, nice.
Trust. That's where they had the first Revolution pay-per-view, by the way.
Okay.
With the transfers, I've been so clamoring. I missed out on a lot of AEW shows from like the Sears Center and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just, you know, being in my apartment is just far and all that shit. I don't have a car, so I don't drive. I don't have license to go out to these type of shows and stuff. I was like, you know what? I was not gonna miss the Punk show. I was not gonna miss it. So I went to the United Center. That's the only AEW show I've went to so far. So I was like, let me go to Dynamite. It's downtown. Let me enjoy the night to myself. You know, let me just enjoy the night. It's like, why not? Let's go check it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that. I don't know if I'm going to the Raw in Chicago in March. I'll have to see about that. But my goal, I definitely want to check out some more bigger AEW shows this year if I could. I definitely would love to go to Orlando because Orlando's like a second home to me. I've been talking about on my show here. I'm planning to move down to Florida down in the near future. I kind of had my fill of Chicago, kind of in a different part of my life right now. I'm just really ready to start the next chapter of my life. And, my dad's off in the marriage doing his own thing. My mom's off with her boyfriend. My older sister lives out in California. It's like, I need to start my own journey now. So it's like,
man.
I love Florida. Oviedo is one of my favorite cities down there, which is right around it. Which it's crazy. They said, AEW's gonna be in Orlando, but that the UCF arena where they're having the pay-per-view, it's in Oviedo. It's like right there.
Oh, dude, I laugh every time for All Out when they're like, "We're coming back to Chicago for All Out." It's like, well, but you're not really. Like, you're not in Chicago. Like, dude, that you'll have a good time though. You will have a good time. So I haven't been to a Dynamite. Oddly enough, I went to Rampage when it was here right before Full Gear. I take it back. I was at one Dynamite, technically, because I was on the Jericho cruise.
So you're on the first one, right?
Yeah. So when the second Jericho cruise was when they did the All Out, the Dynamite from the ship.
Yeah.
So the famous thing from that whole thing is that was the very first time the crowd sang Jericho to the ring.
Right.
Bothers me now every time, which is hilarious because they showed me during Full Gear, like right when Jericho got to the ring, my phone just started blowing up and just people were like, "Hey man, they got you singing Judas," which I wasn't. I was kind of like just moving my mouth because I like kind of forgot the words. It was just like whatever. But the reason I was like, the cruise, if you have the chance to go. The Jericho cruise is pretty epic, but it's like, it's cool because it's intimate. Right. You guys are on a boat. Where are you going to go? So I've been on 2 of these, and I mean, the talent's there and they're just hanging out. Like if you talk to anybody who was on the very last one in October, Will Ospreay was like the man of the boat because he was just in the thick of it with the fans all week, partying, having fun, going to the other shows, going to the comic shows, going to the other pocket, watching all the bands dance. Like that's what happens on these cruises. So like when Jericho came out that cruise and everybody sang him, it's because we've seen Fozzy play that song 5 fucking times on the boat that week already. So everybody knew the words, and it was like, well, why wouldn't we, and then to see when they were like trying to get the arenas to do it, it wasn't really working at first. And then it finally took off and it was just like, well, you guys just killed a very special moment. And if you listen to any interview where they ask Jericho about it, he'll always say, well, it started on the cruise. And that's why it was special, because it started on my cruise, because he holds that cruise near and dear to him because that's his baby. Yeah. Which, by the way, they just postponed that to, I believe, March of 2023. February of 2023. It was supposed to be this next March, and they moved it. So I'll be on that again. I'm booking a room. That's one last hurrah on the boat, because that's a good time. But you'll have fun at Dynamite though, man. That'll be a good time.
Real quick, did you hear Judas more than the Flow Rider song that you were talking about earlier?
Well, so here's the hard part with that though, because with the Flow Rider, what was it? It was Wild Thing, and then what was the other one? He had 2 huge hits during that time. I know one was Hey You're a Wild Thing, the other one was, either way, I don't remember, but like
with the green light, something like that.
Yeah,
never mind.
See, like the thing with Fozzy on the boat is we heard it because Fozzy played like every night on the boat, so you hear it. Well, when you're in Miami that weekend, 28, when Flow Rider's playing these songs and WWE's using both of these songs and he's going to play Rock to the Ring.
Yeah.
The thing you also got to remember though is at that time, those songs were like top charts. You know what I mean? They were hits at that time, and they were being played on every radio station, every bar, every club. So we're in Miami and we're hitting bars and clubs all week. And Miami is also, Florida is also Flow Rider's home. So obviously they play his shit everywhere. So, I mean, we were hearing like Wild Things in that other song, like literally 15 times a day, just by every restaurant and bar and the mall, everywhere we went in Miami that week. If there's music playing, it would eventually come on. So, I mean, yeah, like when I came home, I was like, yo, man, if I don't have to hear Flow Rider ever again, I wouldn't probably be angry about it. Cause like I've had my fill now, but plus I didn't take kind to him putting hands on Heath Slater that night. That wasn't cool.
That's not right, man. It's not right. All right,
leave him alone.
Let's plug in the 2 count. Tell everybody about the 2 count before we wrap this up.
Yeah, the 2 count wrestling podcast, comedy meets wrestling. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, we don't do so much comedy stuff anymore, but it's me, JR, who is a stand-up comedian from the Minneapolis St. Paul area, as well as Tommy Chillstrom, another stand-up comedian from the Minneapolis St. Paul area, and then me. And we hang out. We are on Twitch, so check us out on Twitch. The 2 count, we spell it out, TWO. Every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central, we go live, do about a 2-hour show, have some fun. We bring some guests on. You already know, 1 week from tomorrow, we're bringing on Josh, and we're going to do our Royal Rumble preview show, and we're going to have a bunch of fun there. We've got a bunch of great people in the chat room having fun, so check that out. Follow us on our social media, the 2 count. You can find me on Twitter and stuff at Big Ace for Life. And then again, the Briscoe and Big Ace show. It's been on a little bit of a hiatus. Now that we're in 2022, we're going to get it kicked back up and relaunch that. We were on the VOC Radio Nation. I'm not really sure what's going on with that anymore. But yeah, you will see some more content coming from me and Wes Briscoe on the Briscoe. We're going to actually do some cool stuff with, we're going to watch back some Aces and 8 TNA matches with him and get his mindset on all that. So it's going to be good times.
Yeah. You can tell Wes that's probably still one of my more favorite underrated factions of all time. I still have the beanie cap somewhere.
Yeah,
they didn't get their props during that time period. I will say that.
The heat those boys drew on those shows alone was like, dude, how can you not like this heel faction? I mean, people just hate them, and he'll tell you. He loved it. It was a great time, and it's been cool too, man. We had Garrett on. Garrett Bischoff came on the show 4 or 5 months ago. And you can find this stuff on YouTube or the VOC Nation past episodes. And I mean, man, that was cool listening to those 2 talk about old times and just, doing that. And again, like Chavo, we've had Chavo on. We had Heath Slater was a fun interview. And we had Heath Slater on, no shit. And we didn't even know this was going to happen. We had him on right after he got released. And it was literally days before they brought him back for that one-off on Raw. And like literally, I think they called him the day after we did the show, which, by the way, Heath Slater is all time just good guy, man. Oh, baby, is he a good time, that guy. And then, I'm trying to remember. We had Dr. Tom Pritchard on, which was a really, really great show. And we talked a lot about like the FCW days. So that's a cool episode to check out. Of course, we had Papa Briscoe on, Jerry Briscoe himself. We had him on shortly after Pat Patterson passed too. So you get some good nuggets of some memories of him and Pat. And it's just a cool show. Like I said, we just took a little bit of a hiatus, but we're going to have some stuff. Our newest episode was about 2 months ago. Mike Knox, who you can see on NWA right now, doing some stuff. So check that out. And we're going to bring some episodes back. So yeah, Briscoe and Big Ace show, 2 count, Impact Pro Wrestling in Iowa. I'm usually at some of those shows. One thing I want to throw out, if you don't mind, Josh, before we leave, and it's just because I am such a big supporter of this weekend, and I've mentioned it a few times already on here, but the George Tragus Luthez Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame induction weekend in Waterloo, Iowa. Just an amazing weekend. Talk about an intimate weekend. Like, you are rubbing elbows with all the people that are coming there. Again, it's how I met Wes Briscoe. It's how we built a friendship and started the show. Some of the names: Trish Stratus, Jim Ross getting inducted this year, Jerry Briscoe, Mike Rotunda, Colt Cabana doing an actual live Art of Wrestling podcast while we're there. Jonathan Grisham's been announced now, James Beard, JJ Dillon, Wes Briscoe, Thunderbolt Patterson, Too Cold Scorpio, Briscoe and Big A show will be doing a live show as well as part of the week. And again, this is all that's announced at this point. As we get closer to July, you're going to hear so many more names get announced. I know that they're working on a few different people. I can't say anything, but I know that there's been some talks that we may get some other really big names coming to this thing this July. So the weekend is going to be, sorry, I just passed it. It is July 21st through the 23rd, Waterloo, Iowa. If you go on Facebook and just look up George Tragus Luthez Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, you can find info there, the link to get it. You can call the Hall of Fame as well down there, get your all access tickets. It's Friday's wrestling. You get like 2-3 shows to do an evaluation where like Jerry, JJ, Dylan, a bunch of them will watch independent talent who actually sign up for this, and they get evaluated. There's the tournament qualifying show, and then there's the big show Friday night from Impact Pro Wrestling. And then Saturday, it's a bunch of stuff at the Hall of Fame, panels, podcast, and then that night ends with the Hall of Fame induction banquet, which is always a special time. This last year, they had Shamrock, Mark Henry, a couple other guys that were just really great listens to when they were up there giving their speeches. So, and again, this year, Jim Ross, Trish Stratus, who's supposed to have been in it last year, but because of the border and COVID, had to cancel it. So fingers crossed she's actually there this year. I know she felt bad that she couldn't make it, but it's just a special weekend for any wrestling fan. And if you're in the Midwest area and you can make it to Iowa, it's definitely well worth the money. So I gotta always push that out for them, because it's just a really, really, really special weekend. So check that out if you're a big fan of wrestling in the Midwest.
Man, you're a superstar, man. You're killing it, man. You got everything going on. I'm really excited to come on the 2 Count.
Yeah, we're gonna have fun.
We're gonna have a blast. Make sure to support Ace and everything he's doing. Make sure to check him out on Twitter, by the way, at Big Ace for Life on Twitter. Go check it out. Folks, before we wrap up, I always say on the podcast, be the authentic product that is yourself. Remember, nobody dictates the pace of your life but yourself. Hope you guys enjoy your day. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Josh Lopez Media. Make sure to bookmark ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. 18 weekly wrestling shows and pay-per-views out for your pleasure. I do want to give a big shout out to Red Velvet really quick. She has probably one of my favorite finishers right now in the business. It's called the Final Slice. I don't know how a person could do a twisting neck breaker with their legs, but somehow she does it, and it's pretty fucking dumb.
Here's the other thing too, though. So obviously Red Velvet is engaged to Mary West Briscoe, and that's a shoot. That's not like fake. So I've gotten to know her over the last year, and I met her briefly, like through phone call and like video chat when we do our episodes, right like before she signed and was doing just some dark stuff. And I've since gotten to know her. I was her ride when she flew in for Full Gear. I picked her up and like got her to her hotel and stuff. And let me tell you, that woman is not tall. So to do that finisher, considering she legitimately is like 5 foot nothing, always amazes me, man. Again, I like them. I like short people because I'm short, so I feel if they can do it, I'm a fan. So, and she's a little spitfire, man, and got that boxing background because her dad, just an amazing talent and just a wonderful person. So, yeah, man, that finishing move she does every time, I'm just like, oh man. And it was cool to see her have that moment with Jade and Shaq, even though they totally fucked the camera shot up for her big spear in that match. It was a cool moment though. But yeah, man, that's awesome. Shout out to Red Velvet, man. I love you. You're awesome.
2022 is going to be good, sir, for sure. Ace, man, I love you, brother. It's been a while since we had a chance to catch up, but thank you for coming on the Hoots Podcast, and we'll catch up soon, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, man.
All right, folks, for Big Ace, I'm Joshie. This has been Catching Up With, part of the Hoots Podcast. Make sure to check out episode 293 this Thursday, a radio podcast from. Enjoy your Monday night, and we'll talk to you guys soon. All right? Yes, sir.